Welcome back to the Heads Up Show. I'm Steve, and I have a really special guest with me today, Bram.
Hi.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
It's awesome. Thanks for having me down here to see your operations, see what you do. Obviously, as a voice of an NFL team, I'm the biggest football nerd you're going to find on earth. And you're teaching me about things that I didn't even know had the level of depth walking around your factory. It's really cool.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you coming all the way down. We have a lot to talk about. This isn't just about the Washington Commanders and Ampire Media, although it's really about those two things. Tell our audience what it is that you do for both the NFL and for Ampire.
Yeah. So I founded Ampire Media right before the pandemic, actually, about a year before. I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'd been an on-air performer for, now going on over 30 years. Some, if you have a really good memory, will remember me from SportsCenter. I was on ESPN from 2008 to 2015, variety of different shows, worked out of Bristol. Outside of that, I've been mainly a professional in my hometown of Washington, D.C., where I either covered the then Washington Redskins for a number of years, was on their broadcast as a sideline reporter before, had become a radio show host. I've been on every local TV station in some way. I've just had a long, vibrant on-air career. But after I left ESPN, I really wanted to get into modern media, as you're doing here. Yeah. And I wanted to start, to become an entrepreneur and kind of control, my own brand as things moved forward. And so I got into digital media, namely podcasting. That's what Ampire Media is. Okay. We've gone through a number of different kind of strategies. It was very broad at first. I was going to work with a lot of, I have obviously a tremendous amount of connections in and around with reporters around the country. So we started to build what felt like a national profile. And then as things kind of progressed, we decided to really focus in on know your fans. Yes. And I know our audience is the Washington, D.C. metro area, and then extension really of the Commanders, and then all the other Washington, D.C. teams. So we have focused our shows, and we have three primary ones, one of them being mine, on servicing Washington, D.C. sports fans, and specifically Commanders fans, and you can find our media there. And I'll stop talking soon, but since you asked about
I want to hear
being a play-by-play voice, I will be heading into my 6th season this year. I just finished year 5. Obviously, it was the best one the team has had in a very long time, which we can talk about. And it's an honor and a privilege. I'm the third person since 1979 to hold that job. I'm one of 32. And as I said, I grew up in Washington, D.C. I went to old RFK Stadium as a kid. I've watched every play they've run since I was a child. It's a dream come true job. Like, not only am I calling NFL games, which is an amazing, thing to have, I'm calling my team's games. And so there's an emotional connection to it that's kind of hard to describe.
Oh man, there's so much to unpack there. I love the fact that you are so much better at this than I am. You've been on camera, on air, and using your...
I don't know how to use this, so you're gonna we're gonna find out how much better you are than me in some things in a few moments.
Fair enough. I was just gonna ask you, but have you ever built your own helmet?
No, and we got connected because you're doing stuff that is really unique. What you guys are doing is so incredibly cool. I was really honored that you wanted me to come down, and I really want to learn from you as much as you probably want to hear stories from me.
I really do, man, and I appreciate that. So what I want to do is just start going over what we're going to do today for you, and then I'm going to put you to a little bit of work. Yeah. And then I'm going to have you get into more detail because there's some exciting things happening with the Washington Commanders.
There are.
And some of it we can talk about.
Yes.
So let's start with just going over the pieces to this helmet. Okay. So we have this custom Ampire Media laser etched visor. Tell me about your logo.
It's actually brand new. We went through a rebrand recently, and I had a very retro look, and I kind of wanted to keep that retro look. Okay. The name Ampire was generated, at least why I decided to call it that, was my start was in AM radio, right? And AM radio is not gone, but it's slowly and surely, losing its place in the media ecosystem. I still do a radio show that is on AM radio, so hopefully it'll last, it'll continue to last. But obviously I started, turning my show into a podcast because that's the future. These things are going to start changing. So I started in AM radio. The hope is to build an Ampire. And that's the name, and that's where it came from.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
The logo to me has Washington Monument.
Yes.
Maybe a microphone.
Yes, that's an old school microphone. So so that's where we kind of went with that. And like I said, my original logo was also very almost like retro pop art,
Yeah.
because I was always kind of drawn to that. And in the same way, when we talked about a rebrand, we wanted something that obviously profiled Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I want to kind of, profile my lineage and my desire to showcase old school broadcasting. That some of these things, even in the modern era, communication doesn't change very much. It's just the platforms by which that you consume it. And so I wanted to kind of lay homage to the past of broadcasting.
There you go. The medium has changed, but the way you get to what you're trying to get across hasn't changed.
There are some things that have never changed, even if you're on TikTok or Twitter or Instagram or a podcast or YouTube, you still need to effectively communicate. Those tenets don't change. The way you write, the way you speak, the way you communicate, that stuff doesn't change. And therefore,
I love that.
Follow what people who have done in the past, follow best practices, learn how to communicate well, but then do it in a modern fashion on a modern platform to garner an audience.
Super cool, man. I'm going to have you hand me some tools, and then I want to start giving some real good things for the Washington fans out there. So let me have this guy, and then let me have that, and then that blue scraper there with the black pad on it. Perfect. Okay. So tell us, what is the most exciting thing coming this upcoming year for Washington football?
I think it's expectation. We have not had expectation like this in a while. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think they should run away from it. And so they're finally in a spot where there are not going to be as many doubters as there were. Their record is what it was. They went as far as they did. And in reality, their quarterback had what I believe was, and I don't even think it's all that arguable, I think he had the best rookie season any quarterback has ever had in NFL history. And a lot of the metrics kind of show that. They went from 4-13 to 12-5. That was their best record since 1991. They did that with a team that flipped over half of their roster, had a new coach, a new GM, and a rookie quarterback. It's preposterous. Honestly, what they did was, I'm an optimist. I thought they'd have a great year, right?
Yeah.
I always think they're going to have a great year.
Sure.
I could not have predicted that. I guarantee you they're going to be on night games 5 or 6 times this year.
Oh, yeah.
Because of him, because of what they did, and because of expectations, and because of their opponents. They're playing the NFC North and the AFC West this year. So think about the teams that they're going to play. The Bears, the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders, primary opponents, even outside of Philadelphia and Dallas, which every year those games are typically on some primetime profile anyway because it's age-old NFC East rivals.
Yes.
So this is going to be a very different year when it comes to expectation. I'm actually excited about it.
I couldn't help but get excited about Jaden last year.
Yeah.
Look, the Giants, being a 30-plus year fan of the Giants, they giveth and they taketh away. I'm never going to not back the blue, right? However, if the Giants aren't going to do it, might as well be anybody but the Cowboys. So
I appreciate that. We're similar there. It's but I wasn't rooting for the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Let me put it that way.
Right. Yeah. Part of me really wanted to see Saquon do his thing because he wasn't going to be able to get it done wearing blue. What
are you doing right now, by the way?
Yes, I was just going to say, let me get into the equipment. So what I'm doing is I put your side decals on. I'm going to give you a little lesson on the way that decals get placed. So if you look at every NFL team or any custom helmet, the helmets are always built as if it's sitting on the player's head. Mm-hmm. So the decals, people out there, if you're designing your own stuff, you always want to kick those decals back.
Because when it sits, it will sit
just like that.
I got it.
I've been doing this a long time, so I'm able to kind of know and have them line up pretty well. The equipment managers have an unbelievably important job. They are the drummer of the band that's carrying the entire team on their shoulders. They have to have every piece of equipment ready. They do decals and face masks for every single game.
Yeah.
They have to do hundreds and hundreds of these things. So what I just did was I took off these clear face mask hardware that come on the helmet, and we're upgrading them.
And those are standard to what would show up with this helmet.
Exactly. The NFL teams, a lot of the P4 programs, we provide them a lot of the stuff. Face mask hardware, upgraded clips, visors. Those are the little nuances that kind of set these things apart.
It does feel like customization has become a really big deal. That there is a fashion aspect to it.
Oh yeah.
That Who's driving that? The players, the league, both? Like, where are you seeing that happening?
It's a good question. So fashion passing the mirror test before everything else really started coming into play, probably with like Ricky Williams and players over, I don't know, 18 to 20 years ago. Once visors became a thing, once Justin Tuck had, you know, and Ray Lewis had those big, intimidating big grills, all of a sudden it gave the audience another level of nuance to watch. The equipment all of a sudden was as cool as the player. And the cool factor and how appealing the helmets became coincided with the custom gloves, the painted cleats. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you are a walking, playing brand of your own. Taking mouth guards and jamming them. Like, every player wants to have their unique standout identity, especially wide receivers.
So I guess there must be some give and take with that, because the NFL is always very, 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 very cognizant of their look.
Well, if you notice, only in the past 2 years, there is a brand appearing on the helmets as a logo, which is unheard of. Chin straps, everything's always unbranded. But all of a sudden, do you know what logo you started seeing on the helmet?
No.
Oakley.
Huh.
Every
For the visor?
NFL team, the only visor that they're allowed to wear are Oakleys, and they color match the tabs to suit their teams.
It's interesting. I don't even remember seeing Oakley branded on it.
I'm going
to see it now?
You can't unsee it now.
Right.
I'm going to give you so much more to look at when you're watching football. You may actually start noticing, for example, this blackout that they wore Washington last year was arguably one of the coolest designs.
Yes.
Other teams need to take a lesson from this.
The W on the front.
Yep. They adorned the front of the helmet.
You think its popularity was based on that?
I think that certainly helped. And what they didn't realize was you could make a pretty cool helmet by just putting a little thing on the front and the back.
Yep.
So that little thing just went so far.
They also had their first ever Hail Mary.
Exactly.
In this uniform, in this helmet. So it's changed this look forever, historically for them. One of their greatest highlights of all time will be wearing these.
See, getting unbelievable once-in-a-lifetime things, now you're getting not only national, but world-renowned
I want to reiterate that
attention.
because it's so amazing. When I tell the story of the Hail Mary, it's actually not my favorite play of the year last year, but it's one I'll never forget, obviously, because this is a 90-plus-year-old franchise. We don't believe it had ever happened before.
That's crazy.
We have no recollection of it. There's no report of one, and you'd have to go back to when video didn't exist, when Sammy Baugh was playing in the 1930s and 40s.
Yeah.
So apologies to him and those teams if this happened. But we don't believe that until that Bears game last year, that in the 90-plus year history they had won on a Hail Mary before.
That was the game.
Yes.
That was the game.
Mine was actually before that, but I think for the rest of the world, it was the game. Yes.
Oh, well, now I need to know what was yours.
The two of them, and it happened in weeks 3 and 4. And granted, remember, we're watching this way more closely than everybody else.
Well, sure.
Week 3, they're 1-1, right?
Okay.
They're just 1-1 at this point. The win they had a week ago, the week before, was against the Giants. And that game, famously, they did not score a touchdown and won. But they also didn't turn the ball over and didn't punt. It was one of these weird statistical anomaly games that had never been replicated before.
Yeah.
The Giants scored 3 touchdowns, but their kicker got hurt. They couldn't kick extra points, had to go for it, and failed on a bunch of 2-point conversions. So they ended up scoring 18 points on 3 touchdowns. Washington got in the red zone 6 times, didn't score 1 touchdown, ended up kicking a franchise record 7 field goals, and became the first team ever to win an NFL game after giving up 3 touchdowns, not scoring any, and winning anyway. But they're 1-1. They beat the Giants. They get to week 3. They're playing Cincinnati. T. Higgins was hurt the first couple of games. He finally came back to play with Jamar Chase. They were full arsenal. They're 0-2. They're massive favorites. It's Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels completes over 90% of his throws, makes what I think was, this is one of those, when you see something special for the first time?
Yeah.
We saw that in this game. He makes a throw to Terry McLaurin late on a 0 blitz where he chucks it up. McLaurin is at about the 20-yard line when he lets this fly. McLaurin runs under it like tight coverage and makes an amazing catch right at the boundary on the near side end zone. in what was, in my opinion, the play of the year. The player who's in the booth with me for this game, Logan Paulson, all he could do was start laughing maniacally. He'd never seen anything like this before. There was no reaction to it, right? We didn't know what to say. This was the moment where I went, we just saw something special. You know you saw something special. And this is what launched to us, Jaden Daniels, superstar player. And this was the point. So this is before the Hail Mary where I went, oh man, it's on.
Yep.
Right? It is totally on. They had this incredible win, coming out party. It's on Monday Night Football. Everybody's kind of talking about them. They have this short week. They go out there. They win this game in Arizona, and they win big. By far their best game, complete game of the season. And at that point I went, this is on. Then everybody got the Hail Mary, and I think everybody at that point went, what's going on here?
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And so you knew at that moment.
But remember, new coach, new GM, rookie quarterback, 30 plus new players on the team. The NFL season's long. You don't know. This is a month. You don't know if it has staying power.
Yes.
That's where we were talking on the air during the games going, we're kind of in disbelief. Like, we hadn't seen this.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen quarterback play like this in a very long time, and we just hadn't seen this. And I remember we would say on the air, is this real? Mm-hmm. It was like a level of disbelief about it, and then it became more and more real as the season went along. And now I'm at the point where I go back to what I said to you before. We have expectations, and I welcome it. And I think we all welcome them.
It's so good to hear. And by the way, so to your point, which you made about the kind of the cool factor, the fashion, the upgrades. You know, the NFL years ago, I think that there was a level of resistance where visors really came out with the big grills.
But I do remember like the visors came out specifically for people with eyesight issues. That's why they were allowed, at least initially, to wear those.
Yeah, and
then it became cool looking.
And then it was like, well, that's now swag, right?
Yes.
So, and the NFL tried, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like LaDainian Tomlinson, if I remember right, had a issue with sunlight in his eyes.
Yeah.
And therefore was allowed to wear, and he became one of the first really famous, really, really, really good players that had the dark visor on.
Yes. Truth be told, I think that was the time when the NFL and maybe some of the fan base was going through a transition. You know, the older fan base was either not so willing to accept it. And so the NFL, they actually implemented, you know, the one helmet rule. And that wasn't cool because you got teams out there in college, take Oregon, that wears different designs.
Almost every week.
Right, where the NFL said, we're not doing any of that. So much so, we're going to make it illegal. They made it very difficult for the teams to do their color rush and their throwback. A couple years ago, when the NFL announced that they were dropping that one helmet rule, that is when the magic really started happening. And boy, from a collector standpoint, that was enormous. From a fan base, that was cool because now they're seeing different stuff. So even if your team wasn't really doing great on the field, at least they looked good losing.
That's right.
You know, and I'd say for the past 10 years, the fashion component of it on field and off has now came to the same level.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I remember, you know, one of our, you know, very famous players, unfortunately, Sean Taylor died, but he like personalized his face mask in a way that was extremely unusual. He would tape the face.
Yeah.
He would tape this.
Yeah.
He would put tape around the entire thing. That I think is kind of a no-go for most, but that's what he did. And I'm sure he was getting fined for it, but that's what he did.
This is the coolest part because you really start to get to see it, you know, come together. So let me ask you, what is your plan with this helmet?
You're going to see this behind me on all of my shows that I do out of my house, at least all the ones that I tape. So it'll be prominently displayed. And of course, if we go and we do live, you know, appearances, that we'll do that. We'll bring it with us.
Okay.
So they'll get to see it.
Speaking of live appearances, talk to me about the future home of the Washington Commanders. What's happening there?
So we got a big announcement as we're taping this week, earlier in the week, where the city of Washington, D.C., announced a deal with the team, private-public partnership to rebuild a brand new state-of-the-art stadium at the RFK Stadium site, which is the old home of the team. You know, I think if you ask the fan base, this is what they would like to see happen.
Yeah.
It's an expensive project. There will be public money, and it's not a done deal because it needs to be passed by the DC City Council. They need 7 votes to allow the plan that at least has been put in front of them to be passed. There's a lot of momentum to that happening, but you don't know until you don't know. And so hopefully it gets passed. And if it does, the goal is in 2030, they're going to have a state-of-the-art stadium at RFK Stadium, which is really their home. And that would be incredible if it happens. What a full circle moment. Like of the things, like I got to call a Hail Mary and I've got to call games, and all of that is a privilege and an honor that I don't ever lose sight of. But to stand there announcing that they're coming home potentially, that is
emotional. Yeah.
It's a career highlight. You know, it's like I can't thank the team enough for letting me be part of something like that. It was a historic day for our region, for the team, for the city, for everybody. And hopefully it happens. You know, again, it's not done yet, but hopefully it happens.
But it's probably going to happen. I got one last final thing to ask you about this before I hand it off to you.
Yeah.
So, center stripe, the big debate.
Yeah.
Leave it or cut it?
Oh, man. See, now you're asking me to personalize this. What do the cool kids do?
That's a tough question. So if you look at some of the collectibles and some of the teams, some of them just look better straight. Some of them just look better cut.
Personally,
cut
I like that.
Okay.
But if you're telling me I'm wrong.
Nope. It's your helmet. It's your helmet.
I hear you.
I'm going to cut it. I'm going to do it.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the thing you get one shot at. And the pressure's on now because this is a nice, beautiful painted helmet. This is a custom design, and this cut has to be right. I tell you what, this now folds under here, and we are in good shape, my friend.
I'm glad we did it. I don't regret that for a second.
Boom. Well, good, because it's cut now. Truth be told,
late.
I'll send you home with an X-ray in case you change your mind. You can cover it, but I'll tell you what, man. You now have the most beautiful custom Ampire branded Washington Commanders inspired helmet. Now, you got beautiful head of hair. You do not go to the same barber as me. So if you don't put this on your head, I'm going to.
You have to do it because you have to do it.
Well, this is
nobody messes with the hair. I'm 52 with this. I'm not messing with this.
I understand. Yeah. Well, dude, this is your special helmet, but it's going on my head first. And when I put this on, I want to let you know how much I appreciate you traveling all the way down to visit us. And for the audience out there, the younger guys and gals that potentially want to be where you are, can you just give them a little bit of what did you do to make sure that you are where you are now, to live your dream as the announcer for such an unbelievable team? Because that is an extremely impressive accomplishment.
So I would say, like, what I say to young people all the time who want to get into this or have goals like what I had is number one, like I'll go back to something we talked about earlier. Like, you do have to learn how to write. You do have to learn how to find your voice in writing. All of these different things. Being on SportsCenter is not being on radio, is not doing a podcast, is not calling a game. They're all actually very separate things. But the basics of understanding how to communicate to an audience in a succinct manner and an engaging manner is a learned skill. Follow the people you like and follow how they talk, not just what they're saying. There's a pattern that you will find, and you'll learn to speak in your own voice that way. I had a barrier for entry that I had to pass. The gatekeepers had to let me into either TV stations, newspapers, radio stations, but that was it. You had to get past them. YouTube, podcasting, social media posts, you can do that tomorrow.
Yes.
There's good and bad with that. Like, learn to find your voice and do it well. But don't be afraid to put yourself out there and try to grow your brand. And the other thing I would say is this, like, I became an expert in the Redskins Commanders because I loved them. You earn your way to becoming a generalist. Become an expert in something, show why you love it, show your acumen for it, learn how to have a voice in it that is important, and you'll see where things go. And that's what happened to me. I started as a beat reporter of the team, who became more than a beat reporter, who became a show host, who eventually was very lucky to have the timing in my career to have the opportunity to ask to be the play-by-play voice when they needed one, and I was very fortunate they chose me.
It's great advice. Find something that you want and that you can be passionate about. Become as close as you can to be a subject matter expert at that thing and keep doing it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Can you just tell folks where they can actually find maybe some of your best highlights that you've called? I know you got a reel somewhere, website, social media.
So if you look up the radio calls from last year, specifically the Hail Mary, it won't be hard to find. They're easy to find if you want to find us there.
Yeah.
And as far as Ampire Media goes, AMPIRE, you could find our podcasts, my show, John Keim's show, Ben Standick's show, especially if you're a Commanders fan, you'll love them. You can find them anywhere you get your podcasts. And we have a YouTube channel as well. And you told me you're going to share this with me.
Yep.
So we're going to put this up on our YouTube channel as well so that people get a
Great.
chance to see what you do here too.
Great. Please, if you're a fan of this show, you've made it this long, we appreciate you. It's because of you that we exist. Be sure that you go check out Ampire. Dude, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. Good luck to you and safe travels back home.
All right, we'll do this again after we win the Super Bowl next year.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Bye-bye.